Alright, so we have lost the die roll, and we're against someone from Wizards of the Coast coverage. That's pretty interesting. We have just a great hand. Turn 2 Jace with a backup Jace and a removal spell to follow it up. Now granted, Ultimate Price usually isn't that good against green-white tokens, but it will be certainly good against a Sylvan Advocate if our opponent chooses to play one. And you know, he's still going to have his Abyssins, so Ultimate Price is certainly going to be useful at least. Worst comes to worst, we can always discard it. So we're going to have to take a point of damage here. But turn 2 Jace is so good. This green-white deck, it's pretty low on removal. So if you can like stick one of these threats early, you can really ride it to a lot of card advantage. Usually this green-white deck, it'll have 4 Jamoka's Mans and maybe like 1 Stasis Snare. I'm a big fan of 1 Angelic Purge. So odds are your Jaces are going to be able to last a while, but our opponent is just so lucky. Sturdy Dog's able to kill our Jace. Little as they know, we got the backup. So our opponent thought a lot about what card he was going to take, and then took a Forest. It's like fairly interesting that he would do that. I wonder if there were, I don't know, I wonder what that means about his hand. So casting Grasp of Darkness on this Hangerback Walker might not be a bad idea right now, but we really want to hit our land drops. That's just the most important thing. So I'm just going to be playing this Jace just so that I can increase the chance of that happening. Oh, Gideon's so good. So our opponent is actually having a fairly good draw against us. So we're definitely going to Ruinous Path that thing ASAP. I don't think, well, do want to draw land, so this is going to happen first. I think that we just have to Ruinous Path this Gideon this turn. I would really like to cast the Read the Bones to draw cards, but leaving Gideon on the board is just unacceptable. So what do we want to discard? Honestly, I feel like this game we're just not going to have time to cast the Read the Bones, and we have so much card advantage. Our main problem is just going to be hitting our land drops or not, but it doesn't actually look like we're going to have time to actually cast the Read the Bones. So I think the Read the Bones is actually going to be the card that we discard, unfortunately. We could be in a situation where we just don't hit our land drops and die because of that, but I don't think we actually have time to cast the Read the Bones in this situation. I think we're just going to want to impact the board every single turn, and hopefully use Jace to hit our land drops. Another Gideon? Alright, that's fine. So that's a land drop, that's really good. So we can potentially build up to a Dragonlord Silumgar, which would be quite nice. Opponent seems to be using all of his mana every turn. This needs 5 cards, so we can potentially Grasp in Darkness one of the Hangerback Walkers, and then flip our Jace, but our Jace is going to be pretty vulnerable on the crackback. So I think what's going to happen is we're just going to wait until combat and look to Grasp in Darkness something, and then flip our Jace inside of combat just to prevent as much damage as we can. I don't like seeing that, but yeah, I don't like seeing that one bit. Wow, the Evolutionary Leap main is pretty nasty. So this may be the version that Michael Majors played, where he's got 2 Evolutionary Leap main and 2 Tragic Arrogance main. So if that's the case, it'll be good to know that Tragic Arrogance could be in the future. Kind of just have to let that resolve. So our opponent's going to have like infinite cards. We have really almost no way of dealing with Evolutionary Leap. So what did he get? Sylvan Advocate. But if we can just like not die, in a way maybe we can get enough going. So our opponent has a Sylvan Advocate. We know about that. I think what we're going to be hoping to do is we really need an untapped land. If we have an untapped land, then we could just cast Dark-Dwellers and start flashing things back over and over again. Let's see. If I discarded the Wandering Fumarole, I do not have enough black mana to cast 2 removal spells in a turn. So this is going to be similar to the discarding the Read the Bones. I think we just don't have time for this Wandering Fumarole. So I think I'm just going to discard it. Could really use a sweeper. Nope, we did not draw what I wanted to draw, which is a little unfortunate. So we could read the bones and potentially hit a land. Any untapped land would allow us to cast this ultimate price, and then between Jace and the ultimate price, we only have 1 basic. Gross. I guess that'll do. So we're still going to be able to kill this Knight Ally. I mean, he could have a Dromoka's Command, but you know, so be it. The one thing that's nice about this is our opponent is kind of choked off on mana. So we might be able to get through this somehow. Definitely need a Kalitas. Well, before that, we just need a sweeper. We only have 2 in our main deck, which is a little rough. So is there any way that we could deal with 2 of these? If we had like a Kolaghan's Command in our graveyard, we could. Or if they were on the ground, we could. And our opponent probably has an Avacyn. So I think what we'll do is just minus, and then I wonder what our opponent's thinking about. We're basically dead here, and we're just thinking of how we can maybe extract a little more information out of our opponent. Probably if we just hold our mana open, that'll incite the most fear. Maybe there's like some weird chance that like goes after our Jace or something. But we're basically just dead. Yep, and we're dead. All right. So, our opponent had a pretty good hand. We had some nice things going on, but our opponent just had some better stuff going on. Prior Impulses can come out. Duresses are great against the Planeswalkers. I think this is the matchup where I would want Dragonmaster Outkast. Transgress the Mind doesn't see at its best, and already have the 3 Duresses, which are pretty good. I'm not sure if I want to take out the ultimate prices and grasps. I do want Virulent Plague. I think that I kind of want just all the big stuff, which like can't actually be right. So a little bit of this depends on how our opponent chooses to sideboard. Since we're bringing in like all these extra Ob Nixilises and Dragonlord Silumgars that are really great sources of card advantage in Radiant Flames, I don't think we actually need the Read the Bones. I think we should have enough card advantage in the matchup. Kolaghan's command seems a little on the weak side. Ruinous Path is great. The Planeswalkers are what I'm afraid of the most. So it's interesting how many Ultimate Price Grasp and Darkness you want to keep in. Grasp and Darkness is the best option. Ultimate Price really doesn't hit that much. The tokens are among the things that I'm most afraid of. Can probably just keep in 1 Ultimate Price. There's Sylvan Advocate, and it'll probably have some number of Avacyn, but I don't think he'll keep in all of them. So I think this is a setup that should be appropriate for the matchup. I think the card advantage is better. Also, sometimes Kolaghan's command is just going to be able to snipe a Planeswalker. So this hand's kind of awful. We're going to keep it. Hitting your land drops is pretty important. And the thing that we're honestly most afraid of is just an early Planeswalker. So I think my play pattern is likely going to be Sunken Hollow this turn, and then Wandering Fumaroles on the following turns. And the reason for that is I don't really want to play the Duress this turn, because my opponent's not going to like cast anything valuable. Maybe he'll play an Oath of Nissa and get a Gideon. But I am a little worried about Evolutionary Leap. So it would be nice to kind of snipe that Evolutionary Leap now, and my opponent would be likely to play it next turn. Wow, and we just whiff. Okay, well that sucks. Oh man. The good news is our opponent's hand is about as bad as ours. Alright, 3, 6. How did our opponent mulligan? I didn't even notice. Well, that's pretty unfortunate. Do I want to kill an advocate on his turn? Yeah, I guess I do probably want to kill the advocate when he plays it. So 1 advocate and 1 village down. We will play this. And then we will play this. So I'm playing the Dragonmaster Outkast now because I would like to instill a little bit of fear in my opponent. And if I can force him to use a Dromoka's command on it, that would be pretty great, especially because I have this Kolaghan's command that can just, get it back. So now the only card that we know our opponent has is an Abbey. And starting to get a little dangerous. Don't really want to play the Virulent Plague now, because if he does have Dromoka's command, it's just like a huge blowout 2-for-1. I would like to threaten to block with the Wandering Fumarole. But so I don't really want to play the Virulent Plague now. Also, in general, it's nice to ensure that you are guaranteed some value off of your Plague. So if you play it when there's already tokens in play, that can be a good way to do things. Did I not top right? I did not top right. So trading off a land here for one of his spells is it's kind of what I want to do. These things are about to get huge. So I can trade with them now. I cannot trade with them later. So whoops. So I kind of want to take the opportunity to do so while I can. Ooh, there we go. That probably wasn't even that bad for my opponent, just because of how afraid he is of my Dragonmaster Outkast, but I just sort of want to focus on the long game. If I take a bunch of extra damage, don't trade with that while I can, and then my opponent ends up having a removal spell for my Outkast, it's like really bad. So I have double black, I have double blue, I do not have double red. Oop. This is getting good. So I'm a little worried about my opponent having a big Secure the Wastes. But the immediate thing that I need to answer is just the Sylvan Advocate. Wow, I wonder if he just has all lands and is like trying to save time. That was pretty unreal. Yeah, that was quite the quick concession from my opponent's side. Anyway, I think I'm just going to run this back. It could be a mistake to not have the Dark Petition in my deck. Maybe it would be better than one of the Radiant Flames. But I feel like I have a lot of what I need, and I just want to ensure that things don't go wrong. So this is an interesting question as to what I want to play first. I guess I'll just play this Sunken Hollow first. I have a decent hand. It's just all my lands come to play tapped, which is pretty annoying. When you're on the draw, is not good. Hangerback Walker is very little pressure though, so that's good. Ooh, and this Duress actually goes nicely. So it looks like our mana is mostly spoken for. So I think this is probably the best time for us to fire off this Duress. And we get a Nissa. And our opponent's hand is awful. And here, I think that I'm going to fire off this Evolving Wilds for a swamp. And the reason for that is that way if we draw another basic, actually, since we already have 5 swamps, probably not as afraid of Hangerback Walker as I should be, but I don't really intend on Grasp of Darknessing that thing right away. I'd much rather play my Jace. So I'm just going to grab a swamp anyway. The reason I gave that so much thought is because if I draw another basic, it'll mean that my Smoldering Marsh will be able to come into play untapped, which would be great. And I have all of these swamps, so I was trying to think of like if there was any way that it would be statistically beneficial to grab the one of Island or the one of Mountain. But the basic swamp just makes the most sense. This means I can cast my Grasp of Darkness, my Ruinous Path, and I can save this Smoldering Marsh, like, you know, for potentially drawing an untapped land. Now that's a top deck. Fortunately, we have Silumgar's Command, which is basically the best thing we could have against it. Chances are we're just gonna... Oh wow, so we got a basic. So... does this actually change anything? It might not actually change anything at this point. I think probably what we're going to do is just Ruinous Path this Gideon now, and then Silumgar's Command, another Planeswalker, and bounce the Hangerback Walker at like a later point. So there's no reason not to play the swamp, I guess. We definitely want like 2 basics. I don't really know what I want in terms of looting. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to play the Marsh. And save my Jace to like activate at the end of my opponent's turn when I know more about what I may need. Like if my opponent has a removal spell for my Jace, I'm certainly going to want to activate it in response and keep the Jace in my hand. So this looks like a Avacyn waiting in the wings. Or not. Oh, Den Protector. Nice. I can protect her quite a bit. Discard a Redundant Swamp. And we don't really need anything specific. We can flip our Jace, but there's no rush. So we do want to have Silumgar's Command, though. So the most likely thing that we're going to be doing here is countering something with Silumgar's Command, specifically the Gideon, and killing the Den Protector. And now we can block something with the Jace and flip it inside of combat. And I would love to take 0 damage this turn. The Hangerback Walkers are inconvenient, but they're not that big of a deal. So Evolving Wilds has a good chance of being discarded. In a situation like this, I just want to, you know, draw as few lands as possible. Alright, so I can Ruinous Path something with these Dark-Dwellers. Casting Ruinous Path on this knight does not seem very good. I could go for the Duress, but it's a little risky. I suppose the Duress is better. Like, casting Ruinous Path on this knight just is not actually very good. Wow. And yet another Gideon. That was just phenomenal. Oh, and I didn't even activate my Jace! I got so pumped that I killed the Gideon. That's pretty annoying. Evolutionary Leap will do a lot in terms of his card advantage, but the Dark-Dwellers are still going to be a problem. Alright, so I didn't use my Jace previously. How should I use it now? I have enough mana to cast a Ruinous Path and Grasp of Darkness, which is kind of nice. So I think what I'll do is one, two, three, four. This will mean that there's really no way for my opponent to actually trade with my Dark Dweller, which is what I want. Yeah, so like he can pop his hanger back if he wants. So do I actually want this to happen? I think this is the time that I cast Grasp in Darkness before it gets the counter. So now my opponent will get 3 Thopters, but like 3 Thopters isn't really that big of a deal. It's not going to kill my Jace, at least I hope not. If my opponent is able to pair this with a Nissa or a Gideon Emblem, that could be the case. My opponent getting a Sylvan Advocate, it's no big deal. So my opponent has Hangerback Walker, or no? His Sylvan Advocate and something else. You can certainly respect my opponent going right after my life total. So a good chance this comes down to some sort of race scenario. But I have even though he has this evolutionary leap, I have a kind of a lot going on my side too. Oh, so he's a Den Protector and a Sylvan Advocate. That's what he has. Which is actually pretty good. Ooh, I like that. So I would like to. I wish there was a way I could force him to use his morph pre-combat. So if I Dragonlord Silumgar the morph, then he has to either sack the morph or not use it. So that's probably what I'm going to do. The thing is, if he just gives it to me and gets a Gideon back and gets an emblem, how bad is that for me? I guess it's not that bad considering I have the Ruinous Path and I have a blocker in the air. So I think there's a chance that my path to victory this game might actually be just to ultimate my Jace. Certainly need to hurry up though. So my opponent has a tough decision here as to like what he or she wants to do with this Den Protector. I think if it was me, I would just flip it and get the Gideon back because Gideon is just so good. But to be honest, it doesn't do like that much on the board. But I think that's what I would do. Been a pretty interesting game so far. Each of our decks are kind of running on all cylinders. My opponent has the Evolutionary Leap going. I've got like my Jace and just kind of the normal Grixis stuff going on. In the beginning of this game, we were both kind of lacking on action. So I have to imagine that on average, I'm like favored in like this section of the game, but we'll see. I think that I want to attack with my Dark-Dwellers. My opponent draws a removal spell. It's really bad for me, but I need to get like some amount of pressure going. My opponent doesn't have a removal spell. He doesn't really have particularly good attacks. Like even if he has an Avacyn, it's not even that great. Oh, and my opponent got the other Den Protector. So just looking to get more stuff. Really focus on grinding me out. But you know, my opponent may. Oh wow, so this looks like a big Secure the Wastes. So this might just mean I'm dead. Hmm. Oh, that's bad. If I ever draw a Duress, I can sequence this Silumgar's command to bounce the Evolutionary Leap and like kill something and then Duress it away. But we are you know, we already flashback our Duress with our Dark-Dwellers. So if our opponent does have Secure the Waste, this is like really bad for us. Okay, it's just Avacyn. Can handle that. If our opponent wants to sacrifice something to flip his Avacyn, that would be kind of an interesting thing to do. It'll mean that we'll basically have to block with our Dragonlord Silumgar. Because the Avacyn's gonna hit us for 3, put us to 8, and then potentially attack us down to 2. So I don't know, we'll have to see exactly where we're at. So we've got another Avacyn. Don't really want to flip this Jace. Another Advocate. I'm going to stop keeping track of this stuff and just assume my opponent just has everything. So if our opponent doesn't redirect the damage to Jace, so the fact that our opponent has another Avacyn to cast this turn is actually pretty brutal. I think we're just like dead. So we know that our opponent has Avacyn, which makes this all kinds of awkward. There's like really no way we can work around it. Guess we just have to like force the Avacyn to get played. Four of a kind. Not what I was hoping for. Oh, am I short of mana? Well, that's awkward. And Moto obviously will not let me untap my lands because I played a land afterwards. Well, we'll be able to awaken next turn, although we're just dead. Alright, we're dead. Well, good game. On to the next one. Looks like Evolutionary Leap just basically took that game over. So, that's the way it goes.